Good afternoon and welcome to Have a Chat. I'm Audrey Lynch with my lovely co-hosts, Veronique Arsenault and Judy Loge. Good afternoon, ladies. How are you?
Hello, Audrey. Hello, Veronique.
So wonderful to be back after a little bit of a break this summer.
Yes,
Yes,
it is.
definitely. Definitely it is, for sure. So how have you all been? To our viewers saying hello as well. We're going to start off our show with a quote like we always do. And I believe, Judy, you're the one who has a quote for us today.
And this is the one I chose. A meaningful life is not being popular, being highly educated, or being perfect. It's about being real, being humble, being able to share ourselves and touch the lives of others. Is that not correct?
So true. It is. It really
Love
is.
it.
Definitely.
I mean, let's just, look at a couple of those things. So that is what the bottom line is being good to people and giving your best to others and living a life that's, um, like I said, trying to better yourself every day and look out for your family and all that. But there's nothing wrong with being popular either, because by being popular, you have the chance to, if you are a person that has some good role modeling skills to share, then you can sort of, go with that crowd and let them kind of follow you if you're leading in a positive way. And being educated, that does give a lot of meaning to life, actually. By being educated, you have so much more to offer your choices for career and teach those around you. There's always room for learning. So there's a lot of meaning behind education. But I think what the bottom line is saying, those are lovely things to have. But being a real person it tops it all.
Most definitely, especially in this day and age with social media and stuff like that, and you're able to reach so many so very quickly. The younger generation, they don't call it being popular. They're using the word influencer with their
Okay.
TikTok
Yes.
videos and things like that, where, but I mean, it's
Right.
very possible to not be a very good influencer. So there's still two sides of that coin. And I think it's very
Yep.
important that we try to be the best influencer that we can be in our
Right.
lives, to our family and our friends and to those around us, especially right now where things unfortunately seem to be very volatile in our province specifically, with, our numbers going up and, and everybody's being on edge with the new restrictions and everything coming back into place. So, just a word to everyone to take a breath, and just, breathe and be kind. We're all in the same boat, and it's a struggle, and the waves seem to be getting rough. But you got to look to the positive side, and really look each day as a masterpiece, one day at a time, and do the best you can.
Good advice, Audrey. Just breathe and try to chill out as much as you can, even with the stress coming at you.
Yes,
Veronique, how have you been?
definitely.
Oh, great. It was an incredibly busy summer and so much going on. And I think as Audrey said, everybody's struggling in some way or another right now, especially as we see the cases rise, the COVID cases rise in our province. We're kind of at an all-time high on the daily count. But you know what? For me, it was a great summer. I got to spend a lot of time with family. We had my aunt visiting for the summer and my cousin. And, funny enough, I hadn't seen my cousin. She lives in Alberta, and I hadn't seen my cousin since she was about 12, and she's now in her mid 20s. So it was, it was a huge
Yes.
opportunity for me to get to know her and to spend time with her. And she came for the last month or so as she's moving to university. She's in university now in Halifax. So it was a unique summer, spent a lot of time outside, got to take in some fresh air and just really enjoy the time that I had both with friends and family while still trying to stay as safe as possible. I found
Yep.
this summer really tough to navigate, to be honest with you, because we did lift the restrictions at a province-wide level in just the beginning there of August. And it was a weird kind of time. I was so tired of the mask, absolutely, and so tired of, the plexiglass everywhere. But I also was feeling the need for it to kind of stay in place as well. So, yeah, it was kind of a different summer for us, but lots of great memories, and looking forward to the fall. Fall is my favorite time, so I'm pretty excited about
Yes.
the cooler weather now.
I'm sad because summer is my all-time favorite season, but I will have to adjust. There's nothing you can do about it. Fall's a beautiful time of year, and I look forward to my oldest son and his girlfriend coming home for the first time in a long time this coming weekend. And so there's always that urge. I know you feel the same way, to kind of make your house the best you can make it, even though it's your child and they grew up in the home. You like to have everything fresh and everything polished up and some new things, and actually just to perk it up. And then you want to look at a nice menu, and because it's family again and it's celebratory, and we haven't had a whole lot of chances to socialize. I did MC my very first dinner the other evening, and again, protocol was perfectly in place and very well screened. As far as you could not get in without the vaccine, and they double checked and triple checked, and turned a few people away that thought they could come without that proof of vaccine. But so that was unfortunate, but it had to be done. And again, wearing the masks. I mean, if you're not don't have the food right at your mouth, keep your mask on. And so, I just look at my husband, for example, and his colleagues in the healthcare system. And of course, everyone knows by now that my husband's a physician and my son's a physician. And Veronique and I have nieces and a nephew and a brother-in-law that are physicians. And so all I have to think about is them slaving up there to save lives, which actually we're in a crisis, whether you like to admit it or not. Numbers are getting around now in New Brunswick, and it's pretty terrifying because those people go out every day not knowing what they're going to face. And there are people that, they're in there, they're struggling, their families are so worried. They can't often have more than one person coming to see them and comfort them at a time, if they're allowed in at all. So it's trying. But then when I see him coming home exhausted and mask lines all over his face and having to wear them all day long, I think, just shut up about it. If I have to go to the grocery store and put a mask on, it's just a piece of cloth. I'm done complaining about the mask thing. So that's my story. And again, I look forward to my family coming, and I've shared some times with Veronique and her family this summer. And it's all good. And whatever comes our way, we just have to brace ourselves and be as strong as possible.
Most definitely. Definitely. To our viewers, you probably noticed that we're all color coordinated there today. Veronique, did you want to tell us why that is?
Absolutely. So, several years ago, the Truth and Reconciliation Task Force was put into place here in Canada to address what had been done to our Indigenous peoples for many, many, many years. And over the last year, last 6 months, really more than anything, we've seen the number of unmarked graves found, and the number of there was a mass grave, of course, found in our Indigenous school where the residential schools were.
Mm,
And so,
yeah.
it was horrifying for all of us, and really, especially in the beginning, people, were outraged, and we talked a lot about
Mm-hmm.
it. Now, I think, what happens with any crisis is that it kind of peters off in that public consciousness. But the wonderful thing that the federal government did this summer was declare September 30th as Truth and Reconciliation Day. And that
Yes.
committee, that task force, was done in consultation and conjunction with our Indigenous communities. So it wasn't just
Mm-hmm.
done by the government, it was actually led by the Indigenous communities. And that Truth and Reconciliation Day is one of the 94 calls to action that came out of that report and out of that task force. And
Mm-hmm.
and so that's happening on September 30th. And
Yeah.
although it
Yeah.
is a national holiday for federal employees, it was left up to the provinces and individual
Mm-hmm.
businesses in some cases to decide whether or not it was going to be a stat holiday. In New Brunswick,
Yeah.
it's not a stat holiday, but several communities have declared it a stat holiday for their employees, like Miramichi. I believe that Miramichi was one of the first in the province to declare that. And for it not, because it wasn't declared a stat holiday by the province itself, it's up to the individual businesses. And so and we're seeing lots of businesses do that. But the orange shirt
Mm-hmm.
actually comes from an Indigenous lady who was taken to residential school, and she was all excited because she had an orange shirt on that day, and it was taken away from her. And so for her, that meant, that that was her connection to the Indigenous peoples, and it was important for her,
Mm-hmm.
and it was taken away. So when we started to see the movement around Every Child Matters, that orange T-shirt or that orange shirt became the symbol of it. And so
Yeah.
that's why we're all wearing our orange today. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that those in Miramichi know that we will be having a celebration and an event, we'll call it, on Thursday in the
Yeah.
square in Miramichi West, and that is led by our Indigenous neighbors, and it will be happening in within the city of Miramichi. So we want to make sure that everybody comes out to that. And if you're not in Miramichi, please do check around and see what's going on in your own community. But you know what? It's time for all of us to stand with our Indigenous neighbors and
Yeah. Yeah.
support them as we truly look at truth and reconciliation.
That's a beautiful
Yes.
overview, Veronique, which I'm sure our viewers will appreciate you sharing that with them. And again, I'm honored to be part of this. And I didn't actually have the gorgeous orange T-shirt, but I do, of course, want to honor this whole movement with my orange jacket. And I want to celebrate my Indigenous friends. Many of them are close to my heart. And a lot of young people that I've known growing up are now thriving men and women in my lives. And so this is a great way to pay honor to them and all of our First Nations communities. I'm so proud of their heritage and all that they do for us in the nation and outside. So again, what a wonderful way to mark this on Thursday. So I hope everybody shows up to do this.
Yes, it's going and hopefully it'll be a beautiful day. I have a number of family members myself, my niece and her three children uh, have that background as well, and I'm wishing
Yes.
them the best and a big turnout for that day as well, for sure.
Nice.
Um,
Nice.
yeah, so what else is going on? I want to mention that my daughter has made it to Madrid, Spain,
Yes.
with
Yes. That's
Incredible.
awesome.
yes, with many obstacles to getting her
Mm.
there. We did manage, even right up to flight day, things were still going wrong in the airport itself,
Ah.
with flight delays and computer systems being down. So she wasn't able to prove her vaccination. And so then we were on the phone with
Ah.
public health, and it was quite the ride, but she did manage to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Still a few little glitches happening at that end, but she definitely has messaged me a few times, and she's been to some incredible places
Ah.
already, and has,
Good.
she missed a few days of school, but she's all caught up, and she's like pretty excited about taking this global affairs, master's in global affairs, and many
Mm-hmm.
different professors from all over the world. And she's actually going to partake. Now, I know she told me the name of it, and I'm not going to get it right. But there's a big meeting over there of all the world leaders, and like a summit per se kind of
Okay.
thing.
Yes.
So, and
Yes.
the students of this program are actually to partake in this. So that's pretty exciting.
Nice.
So we're wishing her all the
Exciting.
best, and to enjoy all that Madrid and Spain and this experience has to offer for her.
Oh, I think it's just fantastic, and if she's watching the show ever, and to you, Audrey,
Mm.
again, you're on your way to big and wonderful things, Teresa. So I'm glad she's there safely. Beautiful Madrid, and wish her the very best as well. And in fact, all the kids that are back at school locally in our elementary and middle and high schools
Mm-hmm.
and university students. I mean, these are very challenging times, and my heart goes out to the teaching staff, administration,
Mm.
and the students for trying to navigate through all of these constant changing rules. Every day I've spoke to one teacher the other day. He just came home. He said, I was so emotional and tearful. I just thought, everything was going smoothly, and then the cartwheel upset again. So it's hard, and we have to. These little kids are troopers. It's not normal, any of this, having to continue on for another year into this, post another year, and still deal with the COVID measures. So if you're a parent out there or have a little kid or a middle school or high school student or university, just be there for them. Just listen to them. And if they have their anxiety acting up because it's normal, or they have their fears, which are a part of this whole new scenario, listen. That's my number one thing, is to listen and comfort, and just reassure them that you will get through this, with the help of all of us.
What I was suggesting, and what's been going through my head since school went back, Danae is in grade 12, which, you're getting to that last year, and you should be so excited about putting in this last year and all of these great things to look forward to that grade 12 normally has to offer. And unfortunately, with all the new rules and the restrictions and things changing from week to week, the kids were excited at first. The teachers are stressed from trying to enforce all these new rules and regulations. The children are feeling like their whole world is turned upside down, and that that they feel like they're in prison. I was thinking in my head how great it would be if each of the schools, especially at the high school level, had mental health counselors there in a room, like set up there from 9 to 5 kind of thing, so that kids could stop in when they're feeling like, I'm getting texts from my daughter, in the middle of the day, feeling so overwhelmed and wondering what's wrong with her, that she's not able to cope, and she feels like she has no appetite, and she has no, you know what I mean? And it's nerve wracking. And I'm like, if we could, start a movement where we had mental health in the school itself, an office where the kids could just drop in, and, it's just, there's such a great need, because to get into anybody takes months, and, can take weeks and months. And, these kids need someone to chat with and talk to now.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It makes it difficult. We have a great show lined up for our viewers today. We have some amazing guests, one from far, far away that happens to be in town, Erin Mclean. And we also have Albertine LeBlanc, who is going to be our second guest. And we don't want you to miss it. Hi, and welcome back to Have a Chat. I'm Audrey Lynch with my co-hosts Judy Loge and Veronique Arsenault. If you're just joining us, we are here with our very first guest for today's show, Erin Mclean. Hello, Erin.
Hello. How's everyone today?
Hello, Erin. Welcome.
Yes.
We're great.
Now, you're a very interesting guest for us to have on this show today. You have a specific occupation, and you specialize in horticulture. But before we get discussing what that is exactly and how that all works for you in your career, can you tell us a little bit about yourself personally first?
Yeah. So I grew up in the Miramichi, started off in Napan, out in the boonies, and then grew up in Chatham, big city, and living in Vancouver.
Nice.
Yeah, I studied
Awesome.
the horticultural training program at UBC. So that's kind of where I got my start with plants.
That's good. I'm glad you're here to talk about it, because I kill everything. So maybe you can give me some tips on keeping
There's a
them
steep
alive.
learning curve.
I need to know. Thank you. Yes.
So for most of us, including myself, can you tell us a little bit about what a horticulturalist is? See, look, that was a tough word for me to spit out. So I'm sure that
It's
most of
not
us
super
don't know what that
common.
is, Erin.
Yeah, so if you just think of botany, the scientific study of plants, it's just practical botany. So we're out in the field, we're putting things in the dirt and seeing how they respond, and just kind of studying how they impact the surrounding as well. So how you can kind of optimize pollination or the beneficial kind of insects and animals and birds and all that kind of, the whole ecology around it.
Awesome.
I'm kind of curious. Yeah, now that we're heading into October, what's good to plant this time of year, Erin? In the fall?
Yep. So, of course, everyone knows their bulbs. We have fragrant hyacinths. We have some alliums, and these are all going to come up in the springtime. So you plant them now, and they'll just come right back up. Garlic is also a really good time and a really easy plant to grow, but it's also a good time to plant anything. The soil's still warm, so you can, just so long as you water it in, it'll establish its roots over the course of the fall, and they'll be good to go in the springtime.
Okay, that's great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And where is it? Because usually it's in the spring that the garden centers and things like that are open. So where is it that I'm going to find the best place for plants to be planting this time of year?
So this time of year, it is a little tricky, especially in New Brunswick, where things tend to close a little bit earlier because things get chillier faster. I know Mr. Tomato in Rogersville is open fairly late in the season. And then there's Scott's in Fredericton, which is open year-round, I believe, and has an excellent selection. So you might have to do a little bit of exploring. If you have some friends that are willing to share some of their plants, you can always do that. So, or people in Miramichi are pretty friendly, so I'm sure you can just knock on their door. If there's something that you like, ask them about it, see where they got it, that sort of thing.
Okay, well, like you were speaking about bulbs, but again, I'm not into it at all. So tell me about the proper way, and our viewers, to actually plant the bulb.
Yes. Okay, so a lot of people might not be able to figure out where the top or the bottom is. And this one, it's a little bit easier because you can see the roots coming out. So you want to put the roots down, and then just make sure you top it with a bit of soil. So they say, as wide as the bulb is, plant it twice as deep in the soil. If you're not sure where the top of the bulb is, just plant it sideways and it'll fix itself.
Okay, thank you.
This is fascinating to me because I absolutely kill everything I try to plant and grow. So I'm like, I never even, this is beyond me. So I think this is amazing. But now I've heard the term the hardiness zone. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so if you think of Canada as a whole, there's a lot of different climates, a lot of winters vary all across Canada. So you want to look at the hardiness zone to figure out what will grow best in your area, what the coldest temperature it will tolerate. So in New Brunswick, we're mostly zone 5. It's a little bit warmer down south and then a little bit cooler up north. So up in the Grand Falls area, it's at zone 4 actually. So it's quite a bit chillier. We're zone 5 here. It's a little counterintuitive. So the lower the temperature or the lower the zone, the colder it is. So Nunavut's a zone 0. Just for comparison.
Okay. All right. So we can in the hardiness zone, or wherever, I guess our zone 5 now, that means that different plants would thrive in our weather versus somewhere else, right?
Definitely. So if you look on the prairies, they're zone 3. So there are a lot of maple trees that won't withstand that kind of cold temperature. So they don't grow there. They're more like a hardiness of 4 or 5. And then Vancouver's a zone 8. So it's pretty much as warm as Canada gets.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely interesting.
Dumb. Wonderful. Cool. No, that's not right. Wonderful.
So when it comes to fertilizing, though, of course, many people do a lot of that in the spring. Now, do I need to go out? Now, I have flower beds and things that I've planted before. So I'm assuming that you would re-fertilize, or what do you do there?
Yeah, so every springtime you want to feed your food or feed your plants. A nice low release fertilizer is best because that way you can just kind of set it and forget it for a few months. And you usually reapply those 2 or 3 times in the season, so once every few months. If you're planting bulbs this time of year, you can throw in some bone meal, and that will degrade slowly over the winter time. So when it comes springtime, the bone meals will actually break down, and they'll be able to use it as food.
Okay. So when should people actually be pruning, Erin?
So you want to look at why you're pruning first. The 3 main reasons would be dead, diseased, or dying branches or parts of the plant. Other than that, you don't necessarily need to prune everything. So if you want to keep something a certain shape, you can prune it. But if you want to let something grow a little bit wild, you can do that as well. Sometimes if you have a tree that gets a little congested on the inside, then you can prune for that, just for some health. But it's mostly about aesthetics.
Okay. Yeah.
Referring to the pruning, Erin, is there a specific way to prune? I can remember someone telling me when it comes to tomato plants to take the tip, or is there, I mean, I'm assuming pruning doesn't mean just going and hacking your plant to pieces.
Not always.
That
It's
would be
very
my
dependent
way
on the
of
plant
doing
that you're
it,
growing.
but
Me too.
And this time of year, you can hack a lot of things back down to the ground, and they'll just come back up in the
Okay.
springtime. Um, Tomatoes are more of an annual, and it depends on what type of tomato you're growing. So it really depends on the type of plant. Sometimes pinching them back will help them to create more flowers, and that way you would get more
Mm-hmm.
tomatoes, more apples. If you have an apple tree, you could prune it this time of year to kind of keep it a bit smaller and to encourage those flowers, which will produce your
Yeah.
fruit.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
amazing. Long ago and far away, I taught Erin in high school. Long ago and far
Ah,
away.
yes.
So
Once upon a time.
like where did well, I mean, not so long for you, but it seems to me like it was a lifetime ago because I still think of you as that age. But anyway,
Yeah.
so where did your interest in horticulture come from, and what would you give it as advice for those, you know, who are thinking about it, or, you know, have no idea what to do with it, or you know, just some great tips and advice.
Yeah, so start however as you are. You can buy some seeds. I started mine off, interestingly enough, on the Rock in Newfoundland. They had one
Oh.
botany course, so I took it, and just the experiments that we were doing just were really fascinating to me, and just exploring this whole other realm of life I thought was really, really intriguing. So it's nice just to kind of, you know, see things grow. It teaches you a lot of patience. It teaches you a lot of different things that you can kind of take some life lessons from, I think.
Yeah. And there's so many different areas, right, under your umbrella. I mean, there's the floristry and there's the landscaping and what else? There's the, you know, floriculture and um and nurseries themselves. And so
Yeah.
what's your specific interest, or did you have to learn all of that in order to go out and say, okay, now I'm a horticulturist?
Yep. So I took the horticulture training program at UBC, and they do a pretty broad spectrum. They focus on ornamentals, so landscaping and the outdoor kind of work. But it's such a broad spectrum. You can work in greenhouses, you can work for food production, for cannabis production, for wine production. There are all these little different avenues that you can go down. So it's a little tricky to try to navigate sometimes, but I've kind of settled right now on growing indoor plants and propagating kind of rare things. So that's just where I am right now in my life, and we'll see where it takes me.
That's your niche. That's what you love to do the most. Cool.
Yeah.
I have an interesting question now. When you were learning all of this and how to grow things, I'm assuming that you came across also the study of things that can destroy the plants, whether it's a foreign creature, a bug or an insect, or whether or not it's pesticides and things like that. And we've often heard in the news that every year there's an infestation of some sort of bug or things that we have to watch out for. What kind of things did you learn along those lines?
So Vancouver right now has a really bad problem with an invasive beetle. It's in the downtown area right now, and they actually don't. You're not allowed to move any material outside of that area. They burn all of the organic waste. So they're taking it quite seriously. They can have quite a significant impact on Canada as a whole, because we are so dependent on our forests and especially on our agriculture and that sort of thing. So they can have some real impacts, and especially where the world is becoming ever more global. It is something to keep an eye out for sure. It's just something to kind of look up. I think every province has their own website, because every place is so different, and because the hardiness is so different. The coldness will kill a lot of things that wouldn't be able to be killed in Vancouver, for example. So it all just depends on the region. You really have to look into your specific province and region, I think.
It's a problem.
Cool.
Yeah.
When you think about like, there was such a big push on this year for no mow May, and you know, was it useful? Like, are we helping the bees?
I think it's definitely helpful for our local pollinators, for our local bees, for all of the other insects that don't have much food for that time of year. So long as you don't let your dandelions go to seed, then they won't propagate. So just, I think it's definitely beneficial to try to help some of those plants that normally would flower that time of year, to give them the chance to do so, so that we're not overrun with weeds and other animals or other bugs that we don't necessarily want in our gardens.
You've been talking a lot about bugs and different things that can destroy the plantage, but what about deer? We're in New Brunswick, of course, a lot of woodland, and right behind our home, actually, when we've cleared our property, is a lot of trees and woods. And so we get deer and we get moose and we get raccoons, we get fox. And they can be very destructive, Erin. Bears around this time of year. We've had a lot of them in our neighborhood, actually, unfortunately. Big ones, huge ones, and their cubs. So what are they looking for? What are they going after? And what should people do to kind of, if you do have that beautiful, area for plants in your home, on your property, or outside, what are we supposed to do? Or what do they want? What can we do?
Of course. So bears are the perennial problem in Canada. If you have large fruit trees or perennial fruits, or if you're growing tomatoes, those can attract deer as well, or bears or other unwanted animals. So if you really want to avoid them, grow things that aren't edible, particularly things that are quite toxic, deer will avoid. So you can just always look it up. Usually there are little stickers or signs saying that they're deer resistant. It can be a little tricky sometimes because they do get quite hungry, especially in the wintertime. They can nibble on a lot of different things.
Yeah, including flowers, like flowers,
Oh,
like
especially.
hydrangeas.
Yeah. I feel like in my yard, what I'm noticing, and people are telling me that they're either skunk or raccoons, but they're digging up my grass. They're digging up, and they said that they're looking for the grubs and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I'm just overrun with all these. I work so hard to get my grass, and I don't know how to keep them away.
Yeah, it's nasty.
So the no-mow can help with that, to help establish the grass roots so that they grow a bit deeper and they're a bit more resistant to raccoons and other animals digging them up. I believe for Vancouver, if you let your grass grow in August a little bit later, then the bugs can't reproduce in the grass itself. It's too long for them to get down to the base, to the soil. So that could definitely be a means of trying to protect your lawn, I think.
This is such an
Erin,
interesting subject. I just love
it. Well, especially because you grow stuff, Audrey, but Judy and I not so much.
No.
No. Can you give us any tips and tricks, Erin, on I guess getting started a little bit, but also kind of, I tend to kill things that grow. So anything that I can do as a really bad horticulturalist, that, there might be some other people who are just as bad at it as I am.
Yeah, I would say start with spring bulbs. If you just plant them in the fall time, you almost set them and forget them. They'll come up in the springtime. With all the snow melt, they'll just kind of push themselves up. So I think starting with bulbs is a nice way, and it's just such a nice, cheery, a way to greet for the spring to greet you, I think, especially with daffodils.
Well, Erin, we want to thank you so much for joining us today and filling us all in, and hopefully rubbing off on the girls with your green thumb and giving them some tips and tricks to help them maybe, have a greener or more flowery summer or spring next year. Safe travels back to Vancouver, and hope we can do this again real soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Anytime I get to talk about plants, I'll take it.
It was a pleasure. Safe travels.
Erin.
Stay well. Nice seeing you, Erin. Thanks.
Bye.
We'll be back with more Have a Chat after the break. Don't go away. Good afternoon and welcome back to Have a Chat. I'm Audrey Lynch with my wonderful co-hosts Judy Loge and Veronique Arsenault. Joining us now is our second guest, Reverend Albertine LeBlanc, who is the pastor of Voice of Hope Ministries and the founder of the Greater Blackville Resource Center. Good afternoon, Reverend.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for the invitation to join you on the panel.
It's a pleasure to have you here. So thank you for being on board.
Yes. Before we get talking about Yeah, before we get talking about why you're here and specifically what we want to know, why don't you tell us and the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Well, I was born and raised in Berryville, and I attended school in Miramichi. I was actually on my own at 15 and lived in out west for several years, came back in my 20s. I am today married to my wonderful husband of 31 years. I have 2 beautiful twin daughters and 3 wonderful grandchildren that I'm enjoying very much. And
That's so nice.
I remember people talking about their grandchildren thinking it was the big thing. And I realize now the difference between the child, having your children, and then experiencing the joy of grandchildren.
Yes, I hear that from many people. It's a different kind of an experience, a lot of love. Reverend, tell us a little bit about how it all began for you, how you became interested and ultimately founder of the Greater Blackfield Resource Center.
Well, I've been pastoring in the Blackfield community for probably about 20 years now, and officially moved into the Blackfield community about 14 years ago. And I really wanted to get involved in an outreach where we could do more to help the people in our community and outlying areas, and identifying the needs. I mean, in the past, I had experienced the need to attend a food bank myself. And I just wanted to have an opportunity to do something to give back, because if the need was there for me, it was there for other people. So working in the vulnerable sector, working with the work that I do in the field that I'm in as a pastor, being involved as a chaplain in ministry as well, having those close connections, working with Bridges of Canada, identifying the needs that were greater than my own. And it doesn't matter which community you're in. If you're experiencing low income, you're experiencing potential poverty. If you're a senior, you're also experiencing the same. So I think that for me was acknowledging that the need is here. And I reached out to members of my community and all of the clergy in my community at that time, which was 13 years ago now, and asked them to come and meet with me and sit down. And because I was distributing food from my freezers for years and my cupboards. And so I recognized the need, and I figured if I was, others were doing the same. So I just thought it was an opportunity for us to come together and work together to do a greater work to help our community as a working force.
You'll be blessed for all of this, and thank you for that great initiative and all the work that you've done to bring people closer to meeting their needs. So thank you.
It's really ongoing.
Amazing work.
It's an ongoing work.
I'm sure it is. And interestingly enough, my mother was the chaplain at the hospital for nearly 11 years. So I know the amazing work that chaplains do, and of course you as a pastor. So talk to us a little bit about the purpose of the Greater Blackville Resource Center, kind of what the services are there, and how people can access them.
The Greater Blackfield Resource Center was established as a result, of course, of identifying the needs to have one. And it was primary to establish the food bank and to make sure that the people in our community were accessing food. Because at that time, the people of our community were actually driving into Miramichi to get their food from the food bank. And so then now it's posing another problem because of the gas and the expense of getting there. And so the need was there. It just, they were going into another community. So bringing it into here and having the network now working in my favor through Bridges of Canada, and getting connected to the Food Bank Association of New Brunswick, that began to work with them and to establish a food bank right here in our backyard, so that our people would not have to go into another community acquire the food that they needed. So that's kind of how it started.
Yeah.
And out of that, of course, we had no funding. We had no money to start with. So some of the other food banks gave us some food. And then I kind of just worked with the food bank network at the time and established protocols and things that I needed to do, the kind of things you would put in a food box, to the best of your ability, provide them with something. And then we opened our doors and we just went with it. And out of that need was the need, of course, for funding. And so we began to have yard sales and just throw something out there to try. And I'm not a fundraiser. That's just not my department at all. And so, you know, what happens when you throw a yard sale to start fundraising is that people don't stop giving. And so we now have a resource center. We have a resource center where we're selling secondhand clothes and household items. And my goodness, now we're getting bed frames and we're getting dressers. We're getting all kinds of stuff. But it was a means by which we could generate some funds so I could at least go buy some food that wasn't being donated with me to us. And so that's kind of how we got started. So now we have a resource center that is fully functioning, and this is all happening inside of my church building. The food bank is in my church building. The resource center is in my church building. And as we're growing and we're learning and we're networking, we're attending every possible meeting we can attend to learn how to do this, how to do it right, how to do the food safety, how to get funding, how to manage what we're doing and to grow and develop out of that. So I established a wonderful network, and we joined the New Brunswick Food Bank Association, which has now become the Food Depot Alimentaire, is our new provincial association. So we work closely with them. And because we're members, then we have access to potential grant opportunities, and understanding that a lot of our funding comes from writing grants, which I had no clue how to do that. But you learn as you go, because the need is there. And in order for us to keep our doors open, this was necessary for us to do. So there's a lot of competition, of course. If you know anything about grants out there, it's a lot of competition. Yeah. Everybody's going after something and needing something. So those were small beginnings for us. And out of that, we began to go after these little grants, and we started with the Food Mentors Program. You probably heard of that, food handling. We've done community kitchens, we've done canning classes, we've done sewing classes. We've done, we provide income tax services for, and we started a Soups On program. I don't know if you ever heard of the Soups On program up here in Blackville, but we had a grant of $3,000, and this is one of my favorite stories to tell. A grant for $3,000, and that was their first one. It was like, yay, I got $3,000. What am I going to do with $3,000? All right. So we had to be very creative and innovative. And so one of our board members at the time said, you know what, because I wanted to get the community involved. I wanted all the community groups, and there's quite a few groups up here and church groups in our community and outlying areas. Where we would bring in Renews, all the way up to Renews and all the way up to Upper Blackville, the Howard Road, and Blackville, and missing one. Renews, Blackville. Yeah, so it's quite a large area. It's basically the parish of Blackville. Yeah. And so we took the $3,000 and we shared it with other groups in the community, mostly our church groups that would come on board with me. And I gave them, I teased them with $250. I said, for $250, please open your doors, cook a meal, and open the doors to the people in our community, which were mainly seniors. And this is all I can give you. And let's see what happens. And it really began to take a life of its own. And up until COVID hit, and we were into our, I think, 5th or 6th year of doing a Soups On project. And we started with $3,000. We never got that $3,000 again to do it, because it was a one-time deal. But we served 80 to 100 seniors once a week for 10 weeks during the months of February, March, and April. because we found that those were the months that our seniors were isolated and potential mental health and wellness issues would come into play.
Right.
And so this was a way of
Absolutely.
keeping them connected, right?
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
Yes.
that, of course, when COVID hit, we had to come up with something else. So
Mhm. Mhm.
Amazing.
we started going after the grants, and the grants came down the tube, and we were able to serve hot meals to 150 of our seniors that were registered between Renews and Upper Blackville twice a
Nice.
week over a long period of time.
Beautiful.
So
Beautiful.
Yes.
just some of the stuff we're doing.
Yeah. Well,
of course
my question was going to be about the kind of services that you provide, but I think you've pretty much talked on all of those, unless you're hiding some other ones. So you have the food bank, you have the store itself where you're selling the things that have been donated, and you're helping out the seniors. Is there anything else that's happening?
We have a community garden as well, and we had raised beds. We had raised beds to start with, and we didn't see the participation there with our raised beds. We really especially wanted to see the seniors come through. And so then just this year, we had taken our beds down, and we were able to put in ground beds, by which we're right now we're canning. So I do canning myself personally. And so I do spend time in the kitchen, and we're canning beets, and we're canning carrots, and different things that the garden has produced. So we'll use that in our meal program as we're going to start up again probably in the middle of October. Hope to start up our seniors meals program once again. So let me see. I'm
You're
very
a busy
connected.
girl, busy lady.
Yeah, well, if you want, there are always things to do out there, and we need to be able to give it our all. One of the things that highlights of our year this year was that there's 61 food banks in the province, and we were the first in our province to satellite with our two Indigenous communities, Red Bank and Eel Ground. So Red Bank and Eel Ground food banks come to receive from our food bank right now. And this is a great partnership because our Food Depot Alimentaire, the provincial food bank warehouse, is they are in a position where they're getting the partners that we need, and they're able to receive donations from corporate donors like Irving, McCain's, and other donors out there. And they are able to bulk purchase food, and then they distribute the food from the big warehouse. So when that food comes in, and we accumulate the amount of people and families that we serve in our area, plus Eel Ground and Red Bank, and when that food comes in, it's distributed from my food bank to the other First Nations. So it's a great partnership because they are satelliting with us. They also have opportunity to access potential grants that are there that would not have been able to access before. So a great partnership. They show up every Wednesday to pick up from our food bank. I also do what we call a food recovery program. I don't know if you've heard of it. If you have any idea of the amount of food that is still going to the garbage sites, it's phenomenal.
I can imagine.
Okay, can I give you some statistics on that, because it's pretty interesting?
Yes.
Just a recent survey that was done according to Second Harvest Technical Report that came out this year. 58% of all food produced in Canada is lost or wasted. 58%. Okay.
Wow.
And we sit here, we're talking about people going hungry and food security, and we are throwing food out at this rate in Canada alone. Now 32% of that 58% could be rescued. So we have implemented what we call a food rescue program. I had the privilege of sitting on our provincial board of directors representing our province at national office for several years. I went there and I gleaned and I picked and I brought back the information from the other food banks, found out what they're doing, and say, hey, they're doing what they call a food rescue program. They're getting all this kind of food. Why can't we do this? And we brought it back to the province. We went after it. We got contracts with Sobeys, was the first one that signed up with us. And this is happening via nationals, coming down the national pipe. So when you've got the national office working on your behalf and advocating for you as food banks, is pretty impressive. So makes it easier for us little guys down here. I'm the smaller food bank. However, we do big things. And so we went after the food rescue program here, and Sobeys has partners with us. So just for instance, like the Sobeys rescue program that we're doing right now, and this is our 3rd year. I pick up at the Sobeys in Miramichi, and Joey McDonald is now there, and Joel was there before. Right. So he partners with us, and they're managers. They've all been trained in this. We come in 3 times a week to pick up bread, pastries, some deli products. There's very little meat coming to us still. But it's such a big help to us. Now, from June last year to June this year, we collected, 29,931 pounds of food that was going to the garbage.
Wow.
Now, this is food that you rescue that is best, if it's coming off like your day old bread coming off the shelf, goes in the freezer. Right. We pick it up, throw it in the freezer. I have 2 minutes. Calculated. Now we calculate that at $2.60 a pound. So whatever it is I'm rescuing, it calculates at $2.60 a pound. That means we food rescued $84,000 worth of food last year, and I'm sharing that with Eel Ground, Red Bank, Miramichi, Doketown, and myself. Plus, we serve that to our clients, and we give it to people in our community that have need. We've given it to the youth house in town. We've given it. I don't have any bread that goes in the garbage. Now, so I know I have 2 minutes, and I do want to get to the point.
Go ahead quickly. Yes.
Quickly, I need a warehouse. And because one of the things that's my biggest need. That's my vision. That's my next big project. I've stood in front of the Rotary 3 times. I'm going, looking for supporters. I'm applying for grants and looking for the people that can help me make this happen, because I've only tapped into Sobeys. I can't tap into the other stores. My building right now that I'm working with is 24 by 24 feet. Okay, so look at the room you're in, and it's probably 2 times the size of your room, and that's my food bank. Definitely. So we have potential to secure more food more often through our connections and partnerships that we have with the province and the stores. I can't get it. I can't receive it because I don't have the room for it. So that's my ask, and that's what I'm going to be doing in the near future, because I want to do more to help the people in our community and outlying areas. This warehousing will not just help me; it will help all the way from Doketown all the way up through Miramichi, and my district. It takes me all the way to Lamette, Ketticut, Bathurst, and Tractor.
Well, we want to thank you so much, Reverend Albertine LeBlanc, for joining us today. We will have to definitely have you back and fill us all in on the rest of the details. But thank you again for joining us. What an amazing job and work that you are doing, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
From all of us here at Have a Chat.